Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is your friend Dharam Singh, and I'm very pleased to have a very good friend of mine and very knowledgeable person and recent PgMP. Her name is Judith, and she's a very bright person, and she happy to accept the invite. I'm very lucky to have her here. So I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from her, and you will learn a lot from her. So welcome, Judith.
Thank you, Dharam.
How are you today?
I'm good here in Nairobi.
Yes.
We are fine. Yes.
So Judy is coming from Nairobi, Kenya. Today's topic and today's discussion, we're going to focus on how you manage such a large-scale program, and there are so many stakeholders you have. Those kind of things we're going to learn from you. So, and I'm very sure people are going to learn from you. And guys, you have opportunity to ask questions, whatever you feel like, relevant topic to me or to Judy. And we will try our best to answer your questions. So hopefully, we will make this hour very exciting and full of energy. So thank you all for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And without you, this webinar cannot work. So you coming again makes this program more exciting. And your questions are always welcome. And as I said, your questions makes this program more exciting. If we don't have questions, then what are we talking? Yes, no, we have questions. So I have a set of questions which I'm going to ask Judy, and Judy will answer them. And it's not about grading her, it's more about learning from her. So she had opportunity to see the questions. She had prepared herself. She's ready, and that's where the program is going to be more exciting. With no further delay, I will get started. And the people who do not know me, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dharam Singh, and I'm currently in Dallas, in US, and I spent not too much time, actually 3 years time, less than 3 years time in US. Before US, I was in Australia, and that's where I spent 22 years of my life, and I learned a lot while working for many organizations such as HP, Telstra, Westpac, CBA, and some government organization, federal government, state government, local government. So in those years, I learned a lot, and I changed my direction a little bit. I moved into training, coaching, consulting, and you probably know I'm providing support in PgMP, PfMP. So a few things are now going around the world at the moment. The war in Ukraine is not something anybody like to see. It's a very miserable situation in Ukraine, and they have tough time because of the unexpected war between two countries. And the people who are going through this stage, and we wish you come out of this, or the world we come out of this situation as soon as possible, so that we can be happy and excited again. And while Corona is not been, actually Corona is not gone, so we just cannot say that hey, it's gone. It's still there, so you still have to take care of yourself and your family and your loved ones around and neighborhood. It's more about taking care about your community. So yeah, as I said, I have a very smart, intelligent woman who is leading a major program in Africa, connecting 4 countries via road, $1 billion work. Her name is Judith Kerich. I think you have a name as Rich. I just want to know why you have key in front of that. Maybe Kenyan Rich. That's where it is. So her role, don't go with the role. Her role is saying Deputy Project Coordinator. Actually, when she called me first time she wanted to do PgMP, I said, Dharam, I want to do PgMP. And I was looking at her profile on LinkedIn. I said, Deputy Project Coordinator. Oh my God. She is not even project manager. She is not a project, program manager. And she's the deputy of project coordinator. But when I started talking to her, I realized that designation is not telling me everything. She is actually running a very big program of work, and she has a strategic role. She's into policy development, and she'll be looking after the roads, trains, and airports, and so many things. If you go to Nairobi, you probably see, other than the Prime Minister, Jody is the one you have to think about. So, and she's done mega project, and we loved, and we listen from her.
Thank you, Dharam, and I'm happy to be here today. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to participate in this webinar. My name is Judith Kerich, as you have rightly put, and I'm the Deputy Project Coordinator. We call it project. Actually, probably the right word should be program, because currently this year I'm running 2, but last year I was running three programs worth about $1.5 billion. I closed one project in December. So I'm left with 2, starting one this year, this March is starting. The Horn of Africa Gateway Improvement Project is starting in March. And the other one, it's called the Eastern Africa Transport Trade Facilitation Improvement Project, that is connecting Kenya to South Sudan, is completing in 2024. We had to seek an extension because of COVID. Otherwise, the project should have closed by last year. So my role mainly is on oversight, providing strategic oversight for these programs within the transport and infrastructure projects. I also play a key role in monitoring and evaluation of the projects. And I also oversee what the respective project managers do, because each of the projects have their own project managers, and these project managers now report to the PMO, because we run the PMO, and we now give the oversight, the supervision, the strategic, playing the strategic role, and also ensuring that the project is well resourced. So I also liaise with the senior government officials to make sure that as much as it is donor funded, we have components that are funded by government, and we have to make sure that all those components are well resourced. So that is basically my role. So I also play a liaison role between the government and the World Bank.
Fantastic. Lovely to hear from you, and it's good to have you here. And I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from you.
Thank you.
And so before we kick off, just to let you know, I'm going to offer you one PDU. So if you're here for PDUs, yes, you will be getting one PDU, and you probably have to wait a little bit longer. And somewhere, around 40-45 minutes of that, I will give you the PDU. But I'm sure you're not here only for PDU. It's more about learning from the professional, the people who are doing the job and doing job effectively. So that's what you have to see, how I can make my project, my program even more effective, efficiently running them. So that's what you should have the target, and learn from them, and continue to learn from them. And by the way, if you have not subscribed, I have 2 YouTube channels, and one of the YouTube channel I have previous recordings from other professionals. So you got to learn from the other senior leaders. They have gone through the program management, portfolio management. They have certification to claim as well. But more important is what they've done, what you can do to improve your project programs and your stakeholder coordination, and delivering the benefit for your nation. So you will get the PDU code by the no worries. And I also shared a link on the chat. You're more than welcome to watch the video how to do the PgMP. So if you're here only to learn about PgMP, that video should be enough for you. But I will definitely ask people. I asked my Judy about her paths to PgMP and what she did and how. That's not the primary objective. Objective is to see how she can add value, especially about the stakeholder engagement. All right. And by the way, there is a section where you can put your questions. I'm already start getting questions. I know you have been waiting. So Judy, once again, thank you. And thank you all to join this program. And let me start my questions. So Judy, my first question is, how are companies re-evaluating their purposes in society by supporting the government to build a new inclusive economy and sustainable environment?
Maybe just to give a bit of background to your question is that we are living at an age or an era where there's a lot of change. There's a lot of change in the sense in which we view the stakeholders, in the way we engage the stakeholders. And this has mainly been necessitated by the way communication is happening, the way connectivity is happening. And when I say connectivity, I mean, for instance, when you're engaging your stakeholders, you have to be mindful of the fact that whatever you're doing could be in real time. Something that happens, for instance, in my project can reach you wherever you are in Dallas in no time. So as we think about inclusivity, we have to bear in mind the fundamental issues that could affect the inclusion. And one of them is the communication, the connectivity that we see in society today. We also have to look at the fact that we are dealing with stakeholders who are now more empowered. They have more access to information. We are seeing the rise of the middle class, and the middle class people are more empowered, and they have the money, they have the, the wherewithal to engage with the government, with the project. And we also have other issues. So in building an inclusive economy, I will use the example of the projects that I am engaged in, whereby as we prepare the projects, we make sure that we design the stakeholder with the stakeholder in mind. And the stakeholder here is put at a strategic role. It is not at the operational role. So as we design the project all the way from the start, the stakeholder, we start engaging the stakeholders at that point. We do not engage our stakeholders only at implementation. So we begin and we start talking to the stakeholders. We tell them that, oh, we are going to build this road, and this road will come with ICT capabilities. It will come with, say, social infrastructure. It will come with other, maybe, for instance, in one of the sections of the road, we are doing a climate smart road to make sure that, when issues such as flooding and issues of climate change happen, then the road is able to withstand such changes. So inclusion in this sense then therefore means that we must make sure that all these people, all the stakeholders have a voice. All the stakeholders, whether they are powerful stakeholders or the smaller stakeholders or the stakeholders who have no voice, we bring all of them on board, and we make sure that everybody has a place, everybody has a seat on the table. And that has to take deliberate effort and deliberate action and commitment.
Perfect. Very nice. Yeah. So having, understanding the stakeholder and, focus on what they're expecting and how to engage with them, these all very, very important points. So actually, we have discussed this as part of the PgMP learning, where talked about identifying stakeholder early enough, and then understand more about them, analyze them, and build a strategy to work with them. And that's where it is. Identify stakeholder, engage, identify what strategy you work with them, and actually implement those strategies. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so my next question, and how has stakeholder engagement evolved and impacted the robust process and emerging engagement technologies?
Interesting question. Stakeholder engagement has evolved from the days when we viewed the stakeholder as a, can I say, nuisance, to when we now view the stakeholder as somebody who plays a strategic role in whatever we do, whether in business, whether in project, in whatever we do, because we now realize, for instance, as I implement my project, there are various stakeholders who Without them, I do not have, for instance, a social license to operate on the ground. So so the involvement has changed from when the stakeholder played a very insignificant role to the realization that for sustainability, for long-term, view of the business and long-term view of whatever project you're undertaking, the stakeholder must play a critical role. In my projects, for instance, when I'm engaging the stakeholders, we do, multi-level stakeholder segmentation, because we have stakeholders who are in government, for instance, or the security forces, the communities, the minorities, the marginalized. We make sure that we segment all of them. And the reason for that is because we know that the people who are marginalized, or say the minorities, or say women and children, those ones can be put at the corner, especially in societies where women don't play a key role. So in ensuring that this stakeholder is not forgotten, or this stakeholder is not silenced, we make sure that in whatever we do, we bring this stakeholder to the table. So in all the committees that we have at the project level, we take cognizance of the cultural issues and say we have a chairman who's a man, but we also ensure that the deputy is a woman. And this is how we bring on board the fact that all these stakeholders are key. All these stakeholders must be given the voice to speak up, because if you do not create that opportunity, if you do not create the environment for them to participate, then it will not be possible. And again, that goes back to your first question, where we bring in the fact that inclusion comes in at bearing in mind that you have undertaken a very good stakeholder engagement. Failure to do very good stakeholder engagement means that you're likely to fail in terms of ensuring that the project, the program, the business opportunities that you're creating is not inclusive. So this change in stakeholder engagement has been actually a beautiful thing that has happened. When I look at the projects that I've undertaken, the last two, I'm doing these projects in areas which I would consider marginalized in Kenya. And the poverty levels there are quite high. And we make sure that as we go there, as we implement this project, we also ensure that we factor in a significant portion of the project into social infrastructure that would empower the community. And this is normally done through an engagement process, through a process where the community is allowed to, identify areas where they need support, areas where they need empowerment, and we are able to prioritize and say, we know we'll give you this, we'll be able to do this. For instance, I'm also doing a skills empowerment in my project. So all the children who have finished high school, the project is giving them scholarships to undertake courses that are relevant to the project, such as plant operators or machine operators, or clerk of works, such courses. And these scholarships will be funded through the project, and these children or kids or post-high school graduates will come back and work in the project. And this is how we are ensuring that we are now building, ensuring that we have skills that are coming from that particular community. I don't know whether you've heard about this issue whereby they now say that you must promote corporate gardening as opposed to corporate hunting. You don't go and bring people from elsewhere to come and work in the project, but ensure that you nurture the ones that are there with you, so that you give them the job and be able to promote them, promote their labor skills, promote the economic empowerment of the respective community. And that is how we are now engaging with these stakeholders and ensuring that we journey with them in this economic development in that region.
Yeah, I like this word, corporate nurturing. They are the one going to be future of the corporate. and country, and they grow them, empower them, make them ready for the future, which is they're going to lead of the organization. Very nice. And I mean, other thing you mentioned that the equality is there. The organizations or government is trying to bring equality. If the chairman is man, then woman has to, man has to be the deputy of that. So that actually, trying to bring some equality. Whether it will happen immediately or may take many years, but at least there's a track to get there. That's a good job. Thank you. Good. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, maybe just to add is another thing that we're doing also to promote inclusion as well as also enhance stakeholder engagement is in all the projects we make sure that we are promoting what do I call it? Fair labor practices. Because most of the contracts are being undertaken by Chinese foreign contractors. And if you do not make sure you manage these foreign contractors, they could easily underpay workers. And if they underpay workers, it means that you're actually disenfranchising these people. So part of our engagement is to make sure that we promote good labor practices that are acceptable internationally. We make sure that we also, ensure good safety practices, project safety. We make sure that if the contractor is doing anything contrary to what is agreed within the stakeholder engagement and communication, that there's also a procedure for handling that. So we've built in grievance handling mechanisms at the project level where we're able to collect complaints, on a day-to-day basis. So we have people whose job day-to-day is to collect all the complaints, and through these grievance handling mechanisms, we're able to make sure that we hear what our stakeholders feel. We are able to know what are their complaints, what are their issues, how can we address them, what is it that we need to do differently. A good example is in one of the sections of the road when we were building is we realized that we had denied access to a church or maybe a school. And through these mechanisms, you're able to get that feedback. And you go back to the stakeholder and say, okay, this was not part of the road design, but we will consider this, and we go sit down, look at the design and see how can we then ensure that we have access for this community. And we look at that and we make provisions for access, and that is how we are able to have a very good stakeholder relationship that will last beyond the time of the project.
Yeah, very, very good idea, because you're hearing from them, and that helps you to find where else we can engage or build a relationship with them. And that's where, if you can help them by listening and make some adjustment to your plan, right? Okay, so I have one question, or let me read this first. As we're moving towards fast changing in project program management environment, should we make a system based on AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, based PMIS, which tracks stakeholder expectation time to time? Anything you like to add?
Well, in my project, we have a tool we call geo-enabling. And in this geo-enabling tool, we say that this is our voice of the people where the boots are not able to reach.
Yeah.
So, and this is normally used especially in areas that are a bit challenging to access. And this has really helped us to collect information, to give feedback, to really get to know what is happening, because we want to make sure that all the stakeholders are able to channel their issues without being blocked by anybody. The authorities are not able to tell them, keep quiet, don't let that out, or don't, we can solve this. we want all the complaints or all the issues to be able to reach us. So we've put in various mechanisms. One of them is the geo-enabling tool. We also have what we call third-party monitoring. We also use CSOs. So we have multiple ways in which we engage these stakeholders so that we make sure that we enrich the way in which we gather information, we gather data on our stakeholders, and we are able to know at any given time what is going on or what's happening.
Yeah, fantastic, good. And Judy, and to my friend, this is, there are a number of tools available in the market, especially PMIS. The one tool I'm talking to you, Judy, is VXDCC. That actually has capability to identify, manage, engage with the stakeholder even better. So we are using AI and ML. So if you want to discuss more with me or to Srinivas, happy to talk about. And Arun, if you want to discuss about this, definitely I can talk about this. We do have a platform which can not only bring the whole organization in one place, but help you in stakeholder identification, engaging with them, and as Judith also mentioned, identify the problem early by maybe some patterns or AI and ML technology. So yes, it is very important to move toward that direction, and actually a lot of work is happening in that direction. All right.
Thank
good,
you.
Good. Yeah, good. And let me read a question again. This is I have a question. Okay, we have two consultants, say X and Y. Okay, X is a lead consultant, and Y is structural consultant. X consultant gave authority to Y consultant for taking decision in their respective field. However, Y consultant is lagging to take decision and completely relying on X consultant for final approval. And X consultant insisting to Y to give the final approval. In short, they are just delaying for giving decision. In this scenario, how to engage Y consultant in order? Let me read it again. So there are two consultants, X and Y.
Yes.
He is the lead consultant, Y is the structural consultant. X consultant gave authority to Y for taking decisions in their respective field. However, Y consultant is lagging to take the decision and completely relying on X consultant for final approval. And the X consultant insisting Y to take the final approval. So it's kind of loop. You take the decision, you take the decision. So in this scenario, how to engage with Y consultant to give or get the quick decisions?
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yes.
Yes, it's a trick question. So each one of them is pushing back to the other to make the decision. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Wow. I guess this would be defined in terms of the role. Who is playing what role, and how? Because from your question, you're saying that Y has to seek approval from X, but X is saying you go ahead and make the decision. This, to me, I would term something that is not maybe the role definition is not done properly.
Exactly.
Because it means that Y is trying to delegate upwards and running away from making the decision. Yet X is also pushing downwards to say make the decision, which could also mean that X has not empowered Y, either with skill or with the culture to be able to make the decision. So depending on the context, this is a question where you cannot have a straight answer.
Exactly. And yes, you can try to have some roles and clarity in the roles and responsibilities, an escalation path, and all these things can be defined. Then end of the day, it's sometimes politics. You can't work out the politics. But having a clarity of role and designation, who is what, and empowering the other consultant so that they can take the right decision right time. So as you said, you correctly said, it's not something we can resolve situation here, but yes, something you have to see from the situation to situation. accountability. Somebody mentioned on the chat, REFI, which is responsibility, accountability, and consulting and information. Most people know from the PMP or PMI, needs to be reviewed because there are the roles and responsibilities and lack of accountability, which has to be fixed. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you. All right. Anything else you'd like to add or move to next question?
I think we can move to the next question.
Perfect. All right. So what kind of profound effect do companies face when engaging with their stakeholders during the era of changing landscape of corporate responsibility and business ethics? So some of the buzzwords: corporate responsibility and business ethics.
I think, as we can see, the issue of CSR has been evolving over time. There has been a lot of change, and in this particular case, I would like to use the examples on how I handle CSR in my projects.
Yeah.
And what we do in our CSR is first and foremost, our CSR is normally deliberate. We built it into the design of the project. As we design the project, we go to the ground and we are able to identify areas in which we can participate in. We make sure that we also get into areas that is able to have an impact. As we design the project and define the theory of change, we also make sure that our CSR is somewhere factored in, such that we know that once we do this activity, then we are able to measure the outcome in the end. So what we do is, for instance, we put aside the funds for CSR, and we identify the activities, whether it's building a hospital, a school, buying equipment for a certain school or a hospital. Let me just use those two examples, or a market with all the facilities that are required in a market. We also make sure we sign a contract with the government institution in that particular area. And the reason for that is so that when we complete the activity, we hand it over to them and we build in sustainability mechanisms so that you don't, say, for instance, drill a borehole for the community, get the water, and the day the project ends, the borehole collapses. So we have to make sure that whatever CSR activities we engage in have a long-term impact, have a long-term effect. There are sustainability mechanisms that go beyond the project life. Or, for instance, if it is kids who are going to school, we make sure that we're able to manage these particular kids from primary school all the way to high school to campus if they are going to the university. So we do a complete, we make sure we engage in an activity that is complete. We do not touch or start any CSR activity that ends halfway and somebody else has to pick it from there and continue. We've realized that when you do that, the activity will not have an impact. It will not be felt post your absence in that particular space. And it naturally dies. So that has ensured that as a business or as a government or as whoever it is, when you're engaging in CSR activities, the first thing you need to think about is sustainability. Before you start, how will this particular activity or whatever it is that you're engaging in be managed post your exit in that particular activity? So that is what we do in all our CSR activities. We make sure that we have built in all those mechanisms to manage the activity soon after we leave. And we continue to monitor that activity 5 years after that. So after we hand over, we also have M&E mechanisms to monitor it 5 years later. And then after that, then we get our way out of it.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. So you have this as part of your transition plan, and then have a sustainable plan. So as you learn in the benefit management domain of the PgMP, we don't talk about transition plan and sustain plan. So that's where ensure that the product of work, whatever work you're doing is sustainable. It's going to last for long. It's not just, as you said, you build a well, and it's working until the project's there. But after that, once you finish, everything collapses. Then all money and all the work has been done going wasted. So it has to be planned to sustain it for long term. So my next question for you is whether stakeholder engagement is an inherently valuable exercise. Is it really important to have good stakeholder engagement?
Yes, good stakeholder engagement is not just good, but critical.
Critical, important, very, very important. Yes.
It is very critical to have very good stakeholder engagement because any lapses in a stakeholder engagement could mean a collapse of a project, collapse of a business, especially in the era where we are called upon to account, you know, whether it is, for instance, in my projects, we have a lot of social safeguards, environmental safeguards in place. So whenever you do not have good stakeholder engagement, the reactive responses that you have to undertake could be very costly. They could also be damaging reputationally. And so it is really, really important that you undertake very good stakeholder engagement, bring everybody on board, make sure that all the people who are touching the project in whichever way, both directly and indirectly. We actually go beyond, you know, the ones who are directly involved. We go to the ones who are indirectly involved and even beyond, just to make sure that everybody who is likely to have an impact or affect the project is engaged, is part of our communication plan, and is part of the people who we, you know, ensure that we provide information to, so that should they have any feedback, should they have any issues, then they know exactly how to communicate with us. Yeah,
yeah, and it's very important to, as I said earlier, having to know about your stakeholder earlier enough by having, and the simple exercise we talked about, identify stakeholder, and you put them into stakeholder engagement plan, and gather as much information as you can about them, then analyze them using simple tools like power and interest rate. So that can help you to channel your energy to meet that particular stakeholders or the group of stakeholders need more effectively. So I'm happy to see that whatever learning you had actually is already applied, or you are applying that knowledge in your stakeholder engagement. And that's what the purpose should be, you know. It's not about getting a certificate or PgMP, PfMP or PMP. It's about how can I apply this knowledge in my job and improve my way of doing and improve the productivity of the project program portfolio. That should be the criteria. That should be the meaning. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. It's beautifully presented. All right. And I don't see any more questions from.
Add something small.
Yeah.
In one of the things that we do differently in our stakeholder engagement is when we are doing our stakeholder mapping, we map even the stakeholders involved in our supply chain. Anybody involved with the contractor, the subcontractor, all the people where the contractor is sourcing the materials from, so that if the contractor does not pay for whatever reason, we are able to ensure that we escalate these issues. So we do not, we make sure that the loop is complete, you know, because we've had instances where a foreign contractor comes and they don't pay the suppliers, or they make sure they go and say, you know, borrow materials from a community and they don't pay, or they underpay, you know. So we make sure we map to that level so that all these people are, you know, are taken care of in our engagement plan.
Yeah, perfect. Good. And I think that leading to my next question, very, very close to what you said just now. How do organizations design empowering and safe engagement with engaging when engaging with less powerful or vulnerable groups. So safeguarding them. Yeah.
Yes. So empowering vulnerable groups is normally done. We normally take two approaches. One is communication. So once you do a proper mapping of all the stakeholders, make sure that they receive the communication from the beginning, from when the project, when you're designing the project, they start to hear that, oh, this project is coming up, this is what it entails, this is what you're going to do, this is how it's going to affect us, this is how it's likely to impact the community, this is how it's likely to impact our business, our livelihood. So the information that we give them through various channels empowers them to know what is happening, what's going on, how can they participate in this particular activity, how can they be, support, or how can they also, provide their input or feedback. So communication is key in empowering these stakeholders. The second one is how the project is going to also make a deliberate effort to ensure that it also empowers them economically, because just information alone is not enough. So what we do is, if we find vulnerable groups, for instance, we could invest in a mobile phone or whatever gadget that we will give them to support them to be able to provide feedback back to us at no cost to them. We also, if any members of the community comes for meetings, we take care of their bus fare, we take care of their welfare. So we've built in so many mechanisms in which we empower them to participate. So they cannot say that, oh, I didn't have money to attend this particular activity, or I didn't have airtime to be able to communicate. So we make deliberate effort to make sure, especially for the minorities and the vulnerable groups, that we give them tools to be able to, for them to be able to participate and to feel included in whatever activities that we are doing.
It's very nice. It's very good to hear that, because you are encouraging them to participate in the, and giving them and all the tools and even the money to, even if they have to come to a particular session or a meeting or a town session, they actually can come. They should not say, hey, I need your money, how can I come there? But actually say, no, don't worry. We are all taken care, we'll look after you, just come and share your, if grievances or problems or whatever. I will like to hear. If you can't hear, then you will not know about it.
True.
Yeah, and good to hear this, and I'm like to appreciate you and the government of Kenya to do this, take such a measures to look after the people who are really vulnerable, and give them a voice. Because otherwise, nobody's there to look after them. They're just left alone. They don't have food. They don't have, So, good. Keep it up, and thank you.
Thank you.
Why is there urgency in designing the process for more agile to seize the potential opportunity from the stakeholder engagement?
I think as we have seen the involvement of stakeholder engagement and the involvement of the stakeholders themselves, we realize that it is important to bring agility into the process. People are dynamic. Cultures everywhere are different. For instance, in the 748-kilometer road, I am going to meet at least 5 communities, and they are all different, very different, different religions, So if you are going to apply a one-size-fits-all stakeholder engagement plan, it is not going to work. So you must make sure that the stakeholder engagement plan, you have the fundamental, the basic framework, but this framework can now be customized or tailored to fit into the different needs of the different stakeholder groups that you meet across, the project or the business, wherever you're doing. so that you're able to make sure that there is continuous engagement, and as well as ensuring that these stakeholders do not feel that you're trying to fit them into something that cannot suit them. It is actually the other way around. You make sure that you adopt them and you support them, and whatever it is that you're doing or the manner in which you're engaging them is suitable and acceptable to them.
Yeah, I like the word adopt. And you have to adopt, you don't expect they are going to adopt you. So,
Yeah.
they are a wider community and you are doing some project work for them, and don't expect that they will accept you and your culture or your way of doing things. Rather, you have to, restructure yourself and learn and mold yourself. That's where you get better engagement. So, understanding them, understanding who they are and what is important to them, what are the requirements for them, all very, very important for having a meaningful and very empowering engagement. If you go to the chat, you should able to see the PDU PDU claim code and course identifier. So please take a note of this, and you can claim one PDU. But if you are watching later after the recording and you cannot see that because the chat, so please reach out to me via the email mentioned in somewhere there, and I will help you out with the PDU code. Okay, so yeah, any question, clarification, guys, please make sure you put your question on the chat. And I do have one very important question. I want Judy to take us to the ride, how and when she decided to go for PgMP, and how PgMP is important for her in her current role. That's where the many people say, Dharam, I want to do PgMP, but I don't see the importance of PgMP in my role. So Judy, would you like to take us back when you start thinking of doing PgMP, and what was going in your mind, why you want to do, and why you give me a call at the time, and what happened after that?
Thank you, Dharam. For a start, when I went through the course outline for PgMP, I realized that actually I have been practicing PgMP because issues like stakeholder engagement is key in whatever I do. It's what I do every day. Issues like benefits management is also key, because in all the projects as I mentioned earlier, we prepare the theory of change and we have the indicators that we measure. For instance, if it used to take 10 hours to move from one place to the next, when we complete the road, we expected maybe the travel time will be 3 hours or 2 hours of, we cut the travel time by a certain percentage. So that basically falls under benefits delivery and management. And looking at all other aspects of PgMP, I realized that the only thing I was lacking was a certificate for it. And that is why I decided to contact you and say, actually, I think I'm ready to do the PgMP certificate. And I am actually very proud that I was able to sit for it and obtain the certification, because it gives me even more confidence to talk about these things. Although I've been doing them, but there's more, professionalism put into it. Of course, I was able to learn more things have more structure, as opposed to just learning how, implementing from a donor perspective, but now learning how you undertake program management from a professional perspective. So that is how I ended up undertaking PgMP. And I have no regrets. I think I am happy I did.
There should not be
tough
regrets.
journey.
It's a tough journey. I mean, no doubt it's a tough journey, but that puts you in an elite group with only 3,600 PgMP globally. It's tough to get there, but when you get there, you feel that you have achieved something.
True.
And I'm proud of your success. Of course, you've done everything. I was there just to handhold you. motivate you, push you, but at the end of the day, it's your job. You made it possible to reach that goal. So thank you for accepting me as your mentor. It's always a pleasure to have a, to be part of somebody's journey, and I'm glad it's there. So Judy, and I wanted to highlight this, and I probably actually highlight earlier. When she called me, and when I was looking at role, Deputy Project Coordinator, I totally, probably are thinking, hey, I was underestimating her. But just looking at the role on LinkedIn, that sometimes designation in organization doesn't mean anything. You are a project manager, you are a program manager, you are a PMO, you may be CEO, whatever role you are in, you have to see whether you are really running projects, that's like a program. And the definition program is, you're managing multiple interrelated components and interrelated projects with a common objective, common goal. If that's the case, designation does not mean anything. And you may be running as an engineer, but you are running a billion-dollar work. That's what it is. So look at the kind of work you do, and if the work satisfies the program definition, then you are ready to go, and you will go all the way to pass your PgMP exam. And you want to tell us? Yes, sorry, go ahead.
You're right, Dharam, and thank you for not dismissing me from the title. Yes, sometimes some of these titles are not defined by ourselves, but defined by someone else, and that is just the culture of the organization. They call it projects, they don't call it program, and sometimes it is because also there are several. So at that because of the nature of the institution, it is a project because there are several other projects. So you can imagine under transport, for instance, over for the Kenya government, it is about close to say $6-7 billion. So a project that is about $750 million is minute within the whole. So because of the size of the portfolio, sometimes these terminologies can be very misleading.
Exactly. And I'm inviting anybody who's listening and thinking, am I qualifying for PgMP or PfMP? If you have any questions, please reach out to me. You have a link where you can book time with me, and I'd love to walk you through, guide you, and make sure you are on the right track. If you are eligible for PgMP, if you are eligible for PfMP, if you're not eligible for either of them, maybe something else can make more sense to you. Yes, you should not invest until you feel that this is the right thing, right path for you. Make sure you are in the right direction. That's what my job is. At the end of the day, you have to put all the effort, all the mindset, dedication, discipline, and then you go all the way and pass the exam. So along with Judy, I have now 378 PgMPs from 48 countries. Actually, good news for me is Kenya has 4 PgMP, and all of them my students. Yay, 100% Kenyan PgMPs. I have 78 PfMPs, all passed with above targets. So that's my another proud feeling. And not only passed the exam, PfMP, but they're all above targets. I cannot ask more than that. Exam is not easy, but the way my students have been studying and working toward the direction help them to achieve their goal. They have to put more hours. And actually, when I say already 100%, 100 above target, that put a little bit extra pressure on them. Not really, but they are actually, it's not about me, my result. It's about them and how can you make your life easier and go all the way and pass it. Okay, anything else you'd like to add, Judy?
Nothing else from me.
Very empowering, great insight, very positive discussion. God bless. So I also want to say the same thing. Judy, it was really awesome. Great talking with you, honored working with you. And I'm looking forward to see you again in my PfMP program in September. So, knowledge is there. There's no time to stop. You keep learning. So Thank you for accepting my as a guest speaker. It is always honor to have you here. And people who have been listening, some of them, for some of you, it's middle of night or early morning. Or I know that some people actually 2 o'clock in the morning. It's they want to sleep, but they want to be here and want to listen from, of course, from the guest, and they want to see me, of course. Anyway, so I'd like to thank all of you, and I'd like to see you again in my upcoming webinars. So there are lots of webinars happening almost every 2 months. Every month I have 1 or 2 webinars. So keep learning from them, guys.
Okay, thank you, Dharam, and thank you, listeners, for all those who attended the webinar. Thank you for attending this webinar. I think this is a very good platform for knowledge sharing, for sharing experiences and hearing how others, undertake stakeholder engagement in different parts of the world. I think this is an area where we all need to hear and listen. As we say, the world is now becoming a global village, and so knowing what to do where. Tomorrow you could win a contract here in Kenya, and you'd be saying, oh, how do I engage stakeholders right in Kenya, So this is a very good topic, Dharam, I must say, and it is something that we must continue to learn, because it is evolving, it is very dynamic, and there is a constant change in the way in which we manage, engage our stakeholders. So thank you very much, and I wish you a blessed day from and next time. Thank you, and God bless.
So you mentioned one thing. If you win a contract in Kenya, the first thing, of course, you're going to talk to me and Judy. Hey, Judy, I won the contract. What can I do?
Yeah.
So I'm sure she's open for LinkedIn invitation. So please connect with her. And somebody asked me, yes, the recording will be available very soon, in the next 1 or 2 days. So as a participant, you have access, you will have access. And if you are not already in my YouTube channel, please subscribe. So you're not only going to see this webinar, but previous webinar and the future webinars. So keep learning, guys. It's an ocean of learning, and only thing you need is you have to be thirsty for this ocean. So then everything is for you. So with this, thank you again, and blessings, and love you all. See you again very soon. Take care.
Okay.